Indeed. Thank you very much. This is, I can say this without hesitation, my favorite group to speak to. And so I really appreciate you all having me back. Yes, I am delayed because I have been named as one of the members of Governor-elect Haley's Budget Crisis Task Force. Right, there are 5 of us. There you go. How about that? You know, that's not going to be an easy thing. Because what now, we are faced with a shortfall. Now, I want to say a little bit about what that means. When you hear state government is starving and we're experiencing this multi-billion-dollar shortfall, yeah, depends on how you look at it, obviously. You can make numbers do and say a lot of things, right, Pete? Exactly. But one of the biggest disconnects is in the number that gets put out publicly for the state budget, which you guys probably hear is around $5 billion. It's actually closer to $21 billion. That's how big your state budget is because, surprise, they don't count all the funding pots.
No way.
Yeah. True story. So, that $5 billion that you hear is the cost of state government is one pot of money. Income taxes, corporate income taxes, some of the sales tax revenue, that's general fund money. But state government is actually funded with other fund money, that's the fee, the fine revenue, and this year, unprecedented levels of federal funding. So folks, we like to see these legislators shake their fist up at D.C., and they do it all the time, but that closed fist turns into an open palm around budget time because the dollars flow very freely from Washington, D.C. $8.1 billion worth this year. How much stimulus money has come into the state? I got to look at the full number just the last couple of days, and it is going to be close to $4 billion in stimulus money over the last couple of years. When that money goes away, and it's going to, where will we be now? Dr. Art Laffer predicted that South Carolina was going to be very hard hit by the stimulus dollars because what always happens, the money comes in the door, funds a bunch of programs, and when it goes away, the liability, the cost, all stays. Now, that is common sense. And when the stimulus was being debated, I walked out and talked to people, you guys among them, and everybody said the same thing. We don't want the money. We know it's not going to help things. We know there's a cost down the road, and here it comes. Because mark my words, one way or another, we've got $1 billion+ that won't be in the pot going forward and a whole bunch of state programs. So, what are we going to cut? Well, as a member of the task force, I can't really speak to that at this point because I'm one of 5 people and we all have a lot of work to do to examine ideas and places where cutting makes sense. I'll tell you one thing that I have heard Governor-elect Haley say that I appreciate, and it's this. We're going to look at every dollar, including where the federal money is going, and we'll consider the total cost of government, and she wants ideas that can be implemented by the executive branch. Actually, by the governor, without having the legislature run through them and approve or disapprove. Because most of the time, they don't really like reform over in the South Carolina General Assembly. I discovered that the hard way a few years ago when we got out front and said, hey guys, by the way, you're not really recording very many of your votes. I bet you didn't know that. And now that we've told you, I'm sure there will be a big push to take care of that right away. You guys remember, because you were one of the first groups I spoke to after we got out on the road with Nikki Haley and Nathan Ballantyne and Mark Sanford. Flew all over the state and told you guys 5% of the time. That's how often your legislature records votes when they pass a bill. 5% of the time. Now, the Speaker of the House at the time said this. It would be a waste of taxpayer time and money. You guys remember that? Well, we've come a long way since then. They're not making that argument anymore. The House passed the bill unanimously this year. So they went from saying no way, no how, to responding to pressure, to saying okay. Except in the Senate, it's dead. Senator McConnell believes it's unconstitutional. What? Right. He says that really we shouldn't have a state law to govern what is really a, legislative process. As if the relationship between constituents and lawmaker is nothing more than a Senate housekeeping measure. But that is where we get down in the details, and they are not anxious to pass that bill. I have my own theories about how they feel about it across the board. But the bottom line is they are responding to pressure. And we do see that very clearly. That state budget number I told you about. They are finally conceding over in the legislature that they do have to address these other funds, this strange little pot of money that they somehow think appears by itself. In reality, they control every dime of that other funding. For the first time, and since our report and since we've been out talking to you folks, they're now conceding, well, I guess maybe we better look at the fees and the fines. Get a feel for how much that really is and what we might be able to do about it. Does it comfort you to know that your Senate Finance Committee is looking at the other funds to get an idea of how much they really total? They're the ones who push it through, but they're examining that. Now that's progress. We're getting there. We're starting a conversation. As a matter of fact, today, the Speaker of the House and a few other legislators announced with the university presidents that they were going to present all higher ed spending online. I'll believe it when I see it. And trust me, we will take a look at that plan. I haven't had a chance to because I was in those meetings and then I wanted to jump on the road to come here. But we intend to analyze that and see, does it really include all spending? Well, since the last time I've spoken to you all, and I talked a little bit to this group because I know you all can kind of get a good feel for this stuff. And we've had a lot of back and forth conversation since I came to speak to you all after the passage of the Boeing deal. Since then, there have been a few other giant economic incentive deals proposed. One of them was a retail mall, Jasper County. They just wanted $120 million tax dollars to get started on that. Just a little incentive, a little something to stir the pot. Now, we took a look at that and said, wait a minute, doesn't seem like a very good idea. Senator Greg Ryberg wrote to me and said, okay, you're president of the free market think tank. What do you think about this? And I said, well, I think it's a pretty bad idea, but let's see how bad. So we went to Dr. Pete Calgano and said, Pete, how bad? And he sent us an analysis that essentially said, you're not going to create any new jobs with this thing. You're just going to pull money away from existing businesses. And that's exactly what it would have done. Now here's the good news. That deal is dead. And a couple others like it are dead. Because we're out there putting numbers and research and analysis and finally telling people, hey, you know what? There is no free ride. Here's one story about that. Senator Tom Davis tells this, and I believe it. He's said it plenty of times publicly. When they were debating a special little break for a company up in Chester County, they just wanted $2 million to bring this company in, lure them to South Carolina. So Senator Davis did a little investigation and discovered, lo and behold, the company they wanted to lure was already here. Already up in Chester. Open for business, doing business, had people on the payroll, already here. So, Tom, quite rightly, inferred that perhaps people hadn't done enough of their homework. All right, fair enough. So he spoke to his colleagues, one of the sponsors, and said, listen, we got to pull this thing. They're already here. And the guy said, well, yeah, but the public doesn't know that. So we got to go up there and look like we're doing something. Look like we're doing something. Every time politicians do something, it costs you money. Unless they're undoing something, trust me, you don't want them doing anything. I'm going to show you up close here, and I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but I want to give you a little bit of an update and a recap. What are they doing? What are they doing for us in Columbia, inside the State House? Obviously, the new mantra, remember when it was all about the children?
No.
Nah, it's not about the children anymore. The Shaw. We're all done with the children. It's about job creation.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's about job creation. Now everything is about job creation, from every festival to advertising campaign to billboard, you name it. Whatever the pork, you can bet it's for job creation. So every new government program now has a bright, new, shiny purpose. And that's to create jobs. Here's what their job creation plan looks like. Now, you guys may have heard over the last several months, we got out on the road, told a few folks what the legislative leadership looked like and the concentration of power inside the State House. You guys know this because you're a little more aware of how these things work. Our governor has virtually no power. The General Assembly in South Carolina controls 450 appointments to the executive branch of government. Of those 450 appointments, 150 for legislators. The most powerful boards and commissions running state government are, to a large degree, controlled by these 4 people. And you do vote for a couple of them down here. Most people in the rest of the state don't get that option. The Budget and Control Board, an entity unique to South Carolina, run by 5 people instead of the governor, 3 of whom are elected statewide, 2 of whom are not. House Ways and Means Chairman sits on the Budget and Control Board and gets 1/5 of his power to run the state by virtue of the Speaker's appointment. The other one, the Senate Finance Chairman, here's how he gets 1/5 of the power to run state government. He gets it because he's been there the longest. Seniority. We are one of 2 states in the country that allows senators to choose their own committees based on seniority. The other state is Arkansas. A lot of good leadership coming out of Arkansas? Right. Now, it gets a little bit better. This particular Senate Finance Chairman and another senator have been there the same amount of time. So guess how this guy gets to control hundreds of millions of tax dollars? Procurement contracts, capital expenses, alphabetical order.
I'm just going to guess that.
Yes. Yes. His name comes first in the alphabet. Now, I know. Look, people in other states don't believe me when I tell them this stuff. I didn't know most of it. Look, my mother's family is from Barnwell. Saul Blott and Edgar Brown were at my parents' wedding. I get how this works. Everyone tells a bunch of cute stories about how Mr. Edgar used to take the budget home on the weekends. Great. Well, that's probably still what's happening, only this time, I imagine the Senate Finance Chairman has a whole lot more lobbyists following him than we used to have in South Carolina, and a whole lot of those lobbyists you pay for. Now, that's the real deal. Now, why should we worry about this concentration of power other than the obvious? It's a really bad way to run government and protect freedom. 4 people who are not elected statewide pretty much run the state.